Hi, I'm Chad Vandelat. Joining me in studio today is Kayla Gustafson and Kirk Duckwall. We are the House Geeks. Today we're going to be talking about real estate flips. We all tend to get a number of clients a year that contact us and inquiring about this. So we'll be talking about the ins and outs, positives, negatives, and some things to look out for if you do decide to do this. We are fortunate to have both Kayla and Kirk with us today, who have both done flips and advised on flips. Myself, not so much. As always, feel free to use the comments section below for comments, questions, or show ideas. And remember, these shows will always be aired the following Sunday at noon, and currently Saturday at noon as well on AM 950.
I think they might have taken us off on Saturdays temporarily.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure.
I just looked. I looked 2 days ago, and it's listed on their website.
Well, then it's back again.
AM 950's website, but maybe that's out of date. Always Sunday at noon, and sometimes Saturday at noon as well. Check out our website at housegeeks.com, where you'll find all the latest and greatest searching and researching tools that you hear about on the show. You can also find us on Facebook. Just type in House Geeks, look for the house and the glasses, and you'll see funny photos from showings we go on and updates for the classes that we'll be having. For instance, we'll be having a class Saturday, January 20th at Bloomington at 10:30, the Bloomington City Hall, correct?
Correct.
Yep, and we'll be talking about the tools, tactics, and negotiation strategies that we use when helping buyers find homes. It's for any home buyer, as these things are currently changing and always will change as technology changes. So it's not just for first-time home buyers, it's for second and third home buyers.
And anybody
well.
that our topic today, flipping for profit, right? These tools and techniques are part of that. You know, putting that technology in front of the person who's looking to do this and make some money and how to be much more efficient with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you ready? I'm ready. Welcome to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show with the House Geeks, sponsored by Bricks Real Estate. I'm Kirk Duckwall. Joining me is Chad Vandelat and Kayla Gustafson. And we are the House Geeks. If you have any questions for us, give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Or check us out online anytime at housegeeks.com. Make sure you follow us on our Facebook page. Just type in House Geeks, look for the little house with the glasses, where you'll see upcoming classes, videos, funny photos, all sorts of great real estate information there. Talking about classes, we do have an upcoming class January 20th at Bloomington City Hall at 10:30. If you go to our Facebook page, you can register there to join us. And it's a great class to attend. Actually goes right along with our topic. So today we're talking about flipping for profit. All right, so that class is going to be about the tools and tactics and techniques when buying a home, which transitions right into this discussion. This is a topic that I have kind of avoided for about 6 years in bringing to air. And part of it is that I have found that, yes, we receive, countless calls a year of people who want to get into flipping homes for profit, but then find that they're very resistant in learning how to actually do it. And I think I see this out in the marketplace, as these are probably the people that are the 3 out of 4 bad flips that we go through as realtors. this is the one-shot person who does it. They do it their way and not willing to listen to professionals' advice who have been in this industry and maybe may have done it. As you announced in our Facebook Open, Chad, that I've done some homes flipping for profit, and you as well, Kayla. And the experience that is gained from the successes, and probably even more so from the failures, is just invaluable.
Yes.
And I don't have a whole lot of tolerance for people who don't want to be open to listening to those experiences. So when we were discussing, did we want to do the show, I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then I thought, I'm like, you know what? Why not run through the pros and cons and bring some of that experience of what we've had? So, people that may be looking at this as a potential option can have a better idea of if they really want to do this, and if so, how to do it right. So, you turn on the TV, and even more so now, I remember growing up as a kid, in the 80s and 90s, you had, late night filled with flipping homes to make money, and some program that you'd buy where you'd get, 6 VHS sets and whatnot, and the guys, sitting down by their yacht and the home that they flipped and made $30,000, for zero down,
Yes.
right? So I can tell you this much. Maybe it is being done, and I've heard of ways that it could be done, but I have yet to seen the deal that falls into somebody's lap without really any legwork, that's just the deal of the century, and then they buy it zero down, and they didn't have to do any work. They had somebody else do it all. I don't see, that was never my experience flipping, at all.
If I had that experience, that is what I would be doing full time, because helping other people buy and sell homes is a lot harder than what you just described.
Yes. Yeah. What has your experience has been, Kayla?
Mine has been, I think it's really easy to. HGTV has made an entire, has made tons of money off the idea and of flipping and of, showing that, you might, have a couple difficulties, but it all turns out in the end and people make money. Well, I think what's more realistic is
in a half hour.
Yes. Yes. What's more realistic
and they
is
looked at 3 houses, right?
Exactly, right. There's so much more to that process than they show you. And so really delving into, that's why I kind of pushed Kirk to do this show, because I think there's more to it than meets the eye and than a lot of people know. And when you're starting to vet whether you think you'd like to do this or not, you really should be asking a lot of different questions that you wouldn't even think of if you're watching all of these shows. It's really easy to think that, I'm going to be the designer and I'm going to pick the house colors and I'm going to do all of this fun stuff and it won't cost that much and it won't be, that bad. In reality, you're pulling out hair and, buying all the Tums you can get because you're so concerned about it. And that's the reality of flipping. So if that's not something that, is possible, even the best plan will make you second guess yourself. You will question the budget. Things will pop up. You have to problem solve. More my experience has been in line with that. So it's not a free ride by any stretch of the imagination. So
yeah, I know we were discussing, does it make more sense to do some of the work yourself, so that the cost versus time and those things. There's gonna be work, whatever that work might be. It's gonna take time. It's a big investment. I mean, it's more than likely at least $100,000.
Right.
And probably closer to 175
right.
On your first one. So, and for a lot of people, up to that point, their house has been their biggest purchase, and now they're playing with that much money in one shot. This isn't the market going up a few percent in a year with $50,000. You're talking some serious money.
And a timeline attached to that.
Right.
The stakes are different.
And you can lose it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could lose it all.
I know that experience on a flipper, too.
Right.
No, I'm actually I want to talk about that later because I just went through one that somebody else had done, and they lost like $25,000-$30,000 in one shot for poor analysis of the property. So there is a lot of risk there. I think one of the first things is to we talked last week about what was it renting your house, right? And the first thing we said was you got to have a plan, okay? And if you think that plan is hopping online and finding the foreclosure on Zillow, that's not where you want to start your plan, okay? You need to step back and put a lot of pieces together ahead of time. Put together what is your budget. How are you going to do this? We're going to get into financing in a little bit, but how much money do you have ready to utilize for a down payment if you're doing financing or if you're doing a cash purchase? Then what is your expected renovation costs that you can tolerate? Because that's going to set the parameters of the types of properties you should be looking for.
Right.
Flipping a $150,000 home that's carpet, kitchen, paint, maybe a furnace is different than a house that had fire damage, or something that had all the copper ripped out of it,
right.
or mold issues in the basement. It's a different thing. So you need to prepare for what are your tolerances in the budget.
I got a funny story about budget and tolerances. I know a real estate photographer. He went to go shoot a house, and the ceiling light, or where the ceiling light should be, there were wires hanging down, and he called the agent up and said, I don't think this is ready to shoot. There's a couple lights that are missing. And the agent simply said, yeah, I was flipping this property. I have no more money. So they ran out of their budget. And so you need to be very careful when you're evaluating these homes. And
Well, and that mistake right there, from what I've seen, is close to a 25% mistake. That if the house is not ready to go, even if you're close, you're probably going to miss out on the 25% of the potential sale price, or the ones that I have experienced.
Oh, sure.
Because you still need to put in the lights, still need to paint the walls, you still need to put in the bathroom or whatever it might be. There could be a lot missing, but just very little things left. We've talked about that in the show over and over again, that you have to have those finishing touches to make it shine before you sell. So let's see. Workload expectations when you're putting together this plan. That I think we talked about right away. It's going to be easy. I'll just buy the house. I'll get my guys to go out there and they'll do it. Well, what is your schedule? Do you have kids that have things going on in the evenings? Do you have other time commitments? Are you traveling a lot for work, whatever it might be? Are you going to be out of state? Are you trying to do this from a distance? I mean, that's a call that I actually just got into earlier today, and said, well, flipping from a distance can be very, very hard. You need boots on the ground here.
Yes.
Whether that's a business partner or whatnot, you got to be checking up on this all the time. It doesn't just tend to fix itself.
Especially when you're talking about, there's a lot of workload that I think people don't fully grasp how much is there for just the project management of it. Like the design choices, the managing the subcontractors, if that's what you're doing. Even if you're farming all the work out, you are still in control of the entire plan and the budget. And to think that you're going to put a plan in place and it's going to go perfectly well is not what's going to happen. So, I remember most of my time was spent tweaking the plan, looking at the numbers, making sure that everything was right, and like a continual decision making on top of just having boots on the ground and making sure that what I said needed to happen actually happened the way I wanted it to. That I think people underclub that.
Well, a prime example. How often have you ordered something, anybody who's out there, how often have you ordered something from a big box store? They tell you it's going to be there on X day, and it's not. Okay? In the world of flipping, that's your tile that you're waiting for.
Yep.
The tile is supposed to go in. The tile has to go in before the kitchen goes in, right? But the kitchen contractors are lined up 2 days after that. There's the delay in that one item, and it causes the whole thing. All right, we got to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
I love this topic. There's so much. It's so interesting to me. You know, I just spent talk about this for days. Just a big dork. House geek, actually.
All right, would you say, I was going to say, would you say you're a geek?
I would. Those your tongues?
I thought he was going to pull out a candy bar. I heard like crackling. Eat a candy bar on air.
It's that time of year. I mean, really, like
Just a little
could be
a
either,
light
really.
snack.
Yeah, right.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to give this a few extra seconds because I didn't give us enough time on the intro. All right, ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show with the House Geeks. If you have any questions for us, give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Check us out online anytime at housegeeks.com. Today we're talking about flipping for profit. And some of the positives and negatives, the pitfalls people don't necessarily think about, just the general planning, what you want to keep in mind if you're going to go down this path. Please, if you're just joining us right now, look up the show online so you can catch the beginning section. As you know, this is a all-encompassing show. Won't quite all work together if you don't listen to it fully. All right, so talking left off with the planning, workload expectations. What is the return that you're looking for? I hear many different models on this. I know my tolerance basically is looking to get 12 to 14% at a minimum. And how you get to that 12 to 14% depends on who you like. Some people add in, well, what was my down payment to acquire the property? You brought up a great point, how you said that, Kayla, that if you don't count that piece of the pie, because if you purchase it wisely, you should be able to sell it for exactly what you bought it for.
Right.
Right.
So I'm looking at it in terms of a worst case scenario. I will net no profit, always. And I think that brings up a good point that my methodology is I don't want to ever be in a position where I have to buy something or I'm purchasing outside of my methodology. So I specifically look for properties where they're, under value, and I know even if I don't touch it or something bad happens, I can put that back on the market and net neutral.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about and get in towards the end, the expectations for that first flip. And,
Right.
if you can net neutral, your first one, that's not too shabby.
Right. Right.
Okay, putting together the team. This is one where I've run into resistance, but it's really funny because when I look at some of the best teams, flippers that I've worked with, they have teams, right? The one who it's the person who's trying to do it all themselves and save every last penny, they're actually losing money. I'll sit there and it's like, because you're not doing it this way, it's taking you X amount longer to get the property done. Yeah, you save this money, but you could have made, it was kind of like the example we used last week for the renting property. There are better ways to do it. Yeah, you can do it and limp along, but if you can turn 4 houses a year for $15,000 each versus 2, where you're getting $7,000, and because you're doing it yourself, there's, the numbers don't line up.
Right.
So putting together a team, I think, is very, very important. So what is that team? Well, let's start off, especially if you're just getting into this, getting into real estate in general. Finding an agent that has experience with flipping houses for profit and knows that. And not only knows how to buy them, but then how to sell them and pass along that market knowledge. And you go, well, why would an agent give that up? Well, I'll tell you why. Man, I didn't like working on houses myself. No, I love doing like the advisory role, and there's other agents out there that like that, right? I like helping with the acquisition and looking at it and talking about what can be done to maximize the profit. But I didn't like that project management piece of it,
Sure.
So, and you've got to find what works for you.
Right.
So, finding an agent that has that experience, that can provide that insight, provide what neighborhoods you might want to be looking in that are going to have the good return, and then somebody who has that experience of doing really high quality listings, with the photographers, the stagers, everything that you're going to need to maximize that sale price, along with whether it's your contractors or usually if this agent flipper, they may have a group of contractors as well that they would recommend to put together. So, agents, contractors, and then the financiers of the process, unless you're going to self-finance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the team is very important. And going back to that agent piece, is so often people, once again, they'll skip that agent piece of the pie or try to go around it, not realizing the value that it adds.
If you find the right one.
If you find the right one, that's the key. Right. There's lots of agents that they may not be able to provide that insight and value to get you those percentages. But I, at the end of the day, would gladly pay somebody a 2.7%, 2.5% commission out of that purchase side, and same for the, a 2.7 to 3, whatever it might be on the sales side, if they're going to get me, 6 to 10 or more percent return on the price per square foot just by the quality of the marketing. We're not even talking about the house, but what they're doing, and then the insight that they're providing. Can they walk into a house and give you some general ideas of what the costs would be to get it ready, and then what the return is going to be when you go to sell it? Because you need those numbers and you need them quick.
And not every agent can do that.
No.
I'll be the first to admit that if I take out a client for the first time and they're looking at fixer-uppers, and then the conversation comes up that they're considering doing their first flip, and we walk through the door and they ask me how much would it cost to rehab this home, and that's their question, my first instinct is you're talking to the wrong person. I should really have you meet my business partner, Kirk Duckwall, because he's actually done a couple of these, and he's struggled through a couple, and he's done some successfully. He knows what to do and what not to do, and I absolutely know my limitations there. And it does take a rare agent who has those skills, who can look at a property, come up with a realistic expectation of a cost associated with efficiently updating a house to maximize return on your investment.
And also, can they perform the market analysis for the end state that'll help you have a ballpark for what you're shooting for? Because I think, when I was doing it, that was the most important thing to me, was figuring out what price point am I targeting, and then who are my buyers, and what are my buyers in that price range looking for, which then determines what projects you should be doing and at what trim level. So getting an agent that really knows their numbers, whether it's, they also have some ability to tell you about construction costs, or if it's just, being able to do a good market analysis, getting somebody who knows what they're talking about is key.
Now I feel like I should throw up like a 1-800 number and say they only have a minute and 30 seconds to retain me or something. But thanks for the infomercial, guys. Now, so when we come back, I want to really get into more. Step away from the agent stuff a little bit, get into the financing, where to search for the properties, and then, the risks of some of those websites where you can find foreclosures that might be in redemption and things like that, as well as getting into, some of the things you might want to set for your first property as far as price point and things to avoid. Like resale objections. This is one we talk about a lot with just buyers in general, but so much more so with somebody because you don't know who that buyer is going to be. So you want to make sure you don't limit yourself too much with the property that you're picking up. If you have any questions for us, you can give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Check us out online as well at housegeeks.com and follow us on our Facebook page. Just type in House Geeks for that little house in glasses. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
If we have time, we should talk about like vacant properties and that's a whole nother, we could touch on it, we don't have to talk about it like completely, but along the same lines of foreclosures, like, I mean, that's a serious
Category 2,
yeah,
Category 3
Cat 2
vacants.
properties, and what does that mean, and then what, because that's
We're not
much more
we're not
sophisticated.
going to get to that.
We actually could like do it eventually. I know, there's just too much to talk about here. But I didn't even think about it when we were.
So we're supposed to be in segment 2, but we're coming into segment 3. That's okay.
No crickets in here today.
No. That click down. We'll go through the financing relatively fast, so that way we can get into some of the other stuff. Welcome back to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show on AM 950 with the House Geeks. Check us out online at housegeeks.com. Give us a call anytime with any of your real estate questions at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Today we're talking about flipping homes for profit. So wanted to dive into the financing piece of this. Quite often, especially for the very novice investors, they look at it, I'm going to get traditional financing to pick up this house I'm going to flip. Well, the problem is financing restrictions. We've talked about this before on some of the buyer shows. But, if that home, has mold problems, it is missing mechanicals or has non-functioning mechanicals, and a whole laundry list of other things that may disqualify it, you might not be able to get traditional financing. And we'll get into how this may affect where you will find these properties in a second. So then it kind of comes to personal financing. This is probably the one we hear, more about, that I have the money, I'm just looking to do this as my first time. Obviously it's personal money, and there is more risk there, and so you do have that that comes into play. You may be a little more limited on your budgeting and your flexibility as well, depending on what you have versus, let's say, the final option, which might be a hard money lender that specializes in doing flipping for profit financing. They're going to look and I'll tell you, I remember my meetings with the hard money lenders, and one of the first things they talked about is, who is your team? Who do you have? What's your experience? What's your plan?
Right.
All right? So you better know this stuff if you're going to go this route and put together those people. You have recently, and it's been so long since I've done the hard money stuff.
Sure.
What are you seeing as far as the accessibility of those funds?
They're absolutely accessible. I think it's more typical that people will say, I'm going to borrow from my home equity line of credit, or I'm going to pull from my 401k, and we're going to do it personally. I did it personally, the last one that we did, just because I have more flexibility that way. But I think it benefits you to talk to multiple different lenders to see what your options are, because hard money lending is a really interesting way of doing it, especially if you have if maybe it's not your first one or you have a very well-developed plan. They're lending based on the property and based on the ARV, which is the after rehab value of the property. So you're not having to say, I have all this money in the bank and here's my plan. in the same way with a hard money lender. So it opens you up a little bit to potentially, being able to afford something different, being able to afford faster than you might be able to, growing your personal funds. And you're not so over leveraged personally.
Right, it goes back to that risk.
Exactly. Right.
Nobody
So
wants the
great
foreclosure,
option.
but it's still a risk thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So you got to.
And if you don't like risk, this is the wrong.
And usually the hard money lenders, I mean, they're only going to break a hand or something if you
Right.
go
I
in
mean,
for
it's
it.
usually pretty easy. You can.
Okay. So yes, there's multiple ways you can do it. If you have questions about how do you go about doing it hard money and putting together these plans, feel free. Once again, you can reach out to us. We're happy to help answer those questions. Let's get into finding these properties. And I think I remember it's like, where do I get the list?
Mm-hmm.
This list of foreclosures.
The
and
magical list.
The magical
Yeah.
list, right? How do I go to
Right.
Wells Fargo and find out what's coming up so I can just offer them money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a list of foreclosures, but you're not going to be able to offer the money just directly. That's just not the way it works, right? So a lot of these banks have fair market value policies as to the people that hold the insurance. Basically say you have to put this out there to the public, and the only times that I see it otherwise is bulk sales.
Mm-hmm.
A bank offloading quite a few properties to another investor. But usually it's going to come out on MLS or it's going to come out through an auction site.
Yep.
And when you see these foreclosure properties, and one of the biggest sites where we get the calls that come from is the Big Z, the Zillow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they see the foreclosures on there, and what does that actually mean? What you're seeing on Zillow are not usually foreclosure listings, but yet foreclosure data that's being fed from the county website as to where it is or where it was in the foreclosure process. Right? So you're going to see pre-foreclosure auction, or foreclosure on there. If that process stopped at any point, it's going to just stay there as that. So you could have a pre-foreclosure from 2009 when somebody fell behind and then they caught up on their payments, and it's still just going to show up as a pre-foreclosure.
Right.
A good rule of thumb is if it's been on there for 1,000 days or 12,000 days, it's probably historical data where exactly what Kirk had just described.
Right. It's not the ideal place to look for foreclosure.
Well, and it's how you use it,
Sure.
right? So
Yep,
if
that's a
you
fair point.
if you go to personally, it's the pre-foreclosure ones that interest me the most. Now, there's a much easier way. Going back to the value of your agent, I can go in, and with some of the tools that I have, I can run and pull an instant list of everything that's actually in pre-foreclosure right now, or stuff that's shadow inventory that the bank has. Now, does that mean we're necessarily going to be able to access it to do showings and put offers in? No. But I can pull that list, and so we at least know what might be coming up, what to keep an eye out for, maybe who we could reach out to potentially if postings start to happen on the property.
Right.
But you can do it. It's just a little more painstaking through Zillow, because if you click in and then click in on foreclosure details and then read when this action took place, and then click on the county information and pull up who is the owner. If the owner's the bank, that means you got a property that's in shadow inventory, basically, something that's going to be coming up.
Right.
If it's owned by a homeowner, well, either it hasn't gone to sheriff's sale yet or it's done. And like you say, if it's 1,000 days old and it's got somebody listed as the owner, that's not going to come up. So the way the foreclosure process works in Minnesota is if somebody goes into default, usually they'll receive a notice of default 90 days after the missed payments, and they're going to start saying a sheriff's sale is going to take place if you don't pay up. And then you're going to have this notice of sale that's going to be delivered, typically 90 days prior to the sale, so you can get them pretty quick. And the sheriff's sale is not really a place where you're usually going to go buy the property, because this is an administrative process for the bank to take back the note and take back the property to start the redemption period of time, because the amount that's owed is going to be what it's sold for. And usually
Right.
the amount that's owed is more than what the property's worth.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have sold it traditionally, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So, once the sheriff's sale takes place, it goes into redemption. That is a 6-month period of time that the person can, fully settle up and redeem, which we do see, or the bank does take possession back and will take the property. But it's only upon that time, usually that once the bank has taken it and lists it or puts it out for sale, that you can then go see it and make offers on it. However, there is an exception to this, and that's some of these websites: Xome, XOME, Realty Bid, Hubzu. Well, not so much Hubzu; they're typically post redemption, but some of these sites will sell it during the redemption time. Here's the kicker: you're making an offer on a property you can't set up a showing on that may still have people living in it. That you then, and I've read these contracts, are responsible for removing these people once redemption is up.
Yes.
That's a lot of risk to take. I had an investor client that basically said, if it was me, I'd back out. He did. He backed out. The people were still there.
Yeah.
It was a lot of risk. So I typically will, try to find properties that are post-redemption. Now, going back to these websites, why is it on the auction site, not website, auction site? Why is it on the auction site? Do you guys know?
So they're trying to market it, but they're also trying to market it. They're trying to create bidding wars. They're trying to get it up higher, but then they're also trying to have you come without an agent a lot of the time because they're open to the public.
Well, they have the, okay, so a lot of the times, and this isn't every time, but a lot of times the reason they make it to these auction sites is because they're in such bad conditional shape that the only buyers are cash buyers. And where a majority of the buyers typically on the MLS are going to be finance buyers.
And they're typically as-is sales.
Yes.
And a lot of them are like Category 2 properties or vacant properties that need a lot more attention to bringing them up to code.
Right.
As well.
Well, you mentioned Category 2 and Category 1. And these are different, depending on the city that you're in, these are different categories.
Yeah.
they place the properties in. As far as in what kind of condition is this property actually in.
Right.
And can set the precedence for what you have to do to it.
Yes.
Do you want to dive into a little bit about what the
Yeah, sure. And
categories
so
are?
I've looked at a number of Category 2 properties with different investors that I've had and kind of worked through the process with that. But basically what it is the city has identified that the property is in such bad condition that they've put it on a list. And for you to be able to actually inhabit and get a certificate of occupancy again, you have to have a city inspector come in, tell you everything that's not up to code with the property, and then you have to certify that you have the funds and the plan to fix all of those, regardless of what your flip plan is, in order to even be able to sell that, to buy it, and then also to sell it. So,
And just a quick clarification, does that work need to be done by certified contractors with license?
Contractors, yes. So it's not one of those, we can come in and the bids have to be done. You have to have a licensed contractor come in and do the bids, and then you have to supply the bids for all of the work orders, and then you have to also supply proof of funds to be able to do all of that work, because what they don't want to do is sell the property and then have it still continue to be minimum code, and slap a little paint on it, and then it's dangerous. So those are a whole nother can of worms in terms of, certainly risk, but also funds.
The nice thing is when you're looking out there, City of Minneapolis and City of St. Paul, you can pull these CAT reports.
Yes.
And see where it is. Or you can pull, what permits have been pulled on the home. You can, truth and sale reports. All this is available to you. And so you want to utilize these sites as you are searching these homes to get a good idea of, what is it you're actually jumping into. Because it's very easy to fall into the, oh my gosh, it's $90,000 on Hubzu. Oh wait, it's a category 3, and it's got a laundry list that's $150,000 long, and
If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
right. Well, as we said right away, that amazing deal. Yeah, you might come across a couple of them in a lifetime. But it's really setting the expectations as far as realistic margins. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, get back into what kind of houses might you want to look for as for that first flip. We'll be right back.
So we're looking for 2-bedroom homes in the suburbs then, right?
Yeah, preferably on the Cat 2 list.
With well and septic.
Nice.
Everybody likes an old farmhouse.
Yeah, we could go.
But
possibly go
the
around
well's
that.
a sand well, surface sand well.
Sure.
Yes. Ready? You're tuned into the Twin Cities Real Estate Show with the House Geeks. If you have any questions for us after the show, you can give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Today we're talking about flipping for profit and some of the things to be aware of, some of the misnomers that are out there, and how to do this hopefully successfully if you're going to get into this. And it tends to be after I have this conversation with people, they tend to step back a little bit and take a breath, which is really what you
That's
want,
okay.
right? To put together that plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like I said, I can't even count how many conversations that I have a year of people that are going to go down the investing route or, purchasing for profit, whatever, renting, flipping. But the number of people that actually move forward with it, it's very minimal. Because there is a lot of risks there. There is a lot of time there. It's not just instant.
Well, with anything where there's a large outlay of cash or risk, you should be doing your homework and spending enough time to validate whether that's actually a good choice for you and your family, right? Like, so some of this is also getting buy-in. If you're personally funding it, you got to have buy-in from your spouse, or that's sometimes a tough conversation to get both people on board and at the same level of able to accept the same level of risk.
So, setting realistic expectations, I think, is absolutely key as you go out there. So,
Yes.
Realistic profit margins. If you're going to spin your wheels and just waste a ton of your own time if you don't have realistic expectations on your profit margins. Being careful and cognitive of what resale objections are and as you're searching. So I remember when I first got into this, after I'd flipped a few homes, but was an agent and I started going through other people's flips, I remember finding that 2-bedroom house that had a really strange layout, that was just like it was like on a busy road with a railroad track behind it. It just had everything wrong going for it. And
I'm seeing a lot of that right now with the limited inventory that we have, and especially in the median home price area in suburbs around St. Paul in particular, where I'm seeing a lot of flips with big resale objections. Homes that look really great, but then you pull them up on the map and they're 1.5 blocks away from a train, railroad tracks. And the train runs twice a day, early in the morning and later at night. Beautiful home, stands out in the neighborhood. Everything's been remodeled in it, but huge resale objection. I'm seeing a lot of homes.
I'll take
that
a block and a half. I won't take 2 houses away.
I'm also seeing a lot of homes near commercial buildings that
Yes,
are
yeah.
being rehabbed. You know, right next to, you know, well, I won't say this,
Like
but
empty lots and just warehouses and things like that. Yeah, you're right.
Well, right.
I've seen a lot of
People
as
that are
well.
picking up these ones that tend to be the first to go down in value.
Yeah.
but there may be, if you can buy them at the right price, you know, in a market that we're in now, if you can evaluate that resale objection, it might play less of a.
Right. Well, the whole thing is understanding it and evaluating for it. Right. So it's not that you shouldn't buy a home that has a resale objection. It's making sure that you're putting the proper reduction into your purchase cost and then obviously your resale cost
Right.
because it's going to be there.
Right.
And that's where I see a lot of people on that first go around make that mistake. And you're dealing with a busy road. That could be a $20,000 shift from one street to another. That $20,000, that was the profit. And if you didn't account for it, you might be out.
Or you thought you could override it with a nicer kitchen or something, which is just not going to happen.
No,
That's how
no,
you blow your budget.
Exactly. Well, and this gets into, making sure that you see where is the profit, okay? An analogy that I go to is, when you go buy a car, right, and you see a car, you get into the car and you expect it to start and run and drive well, right? Unless it's already put down, has problems, does not run, right? But you expect that. When a person buys a house, they expect the furnace to work and they expect the plumbing to work. So if you put $10,000 into plumbing upgrades and you bought a new furnace, yeah, it's a nice thing you did. Good job. But you're not getting your $10,000 back out of it typically, right? You make your money on the cosmetics and your square footage and things like that. So the question is, where is the profit? Can you gain space by finishing something off in the attic? Can you add a bedroom? Can you add finished square feet in the basement? And if you do add finished square feet in the basement, is it viable? Or are you talking about like 6-foot ceilings that are down there?
And we've brought up the marketing of the property as well. And I'd like to get your input on this, Kirk. You are pretty good at marketing properties. On the flip, you're trying to maximize your profit. What do you think about having the temperature down to like 50 degrees when it's 10 degrees outside?
Yeah, not a good idea. I was just through one yesterday.
Having the hot water turned off, or having the water turned off in general.
The amount of money that a flipper or just a regular homeowner is going to cost themselves by thinking, we're going to save $300 on utility bills or $100 on utility bills. They're probably costing themselves in the multi-thousands in the sale price. There is no positive return by turning the heat way down. During that.
Instantly, people get inside and
they just want to leave. Their feet are cold. First of all, they think there might be a problem with the furnace. Is it not working correctly? But so one of the big things. We only got a couple minutes left, and probably way more show to go through. But this balance of quality over profit. We go through a lot of flipped homes by many different flippers. And I go back to that, only 1 in 4 that I see, I would say are done well, right? You need to sit there and go, well, what's the quality that I'm going to put in? I went into a property the other day. Actually, my client bid on it. I think we got a pretty good value out of it. But the investor who bought it way overpaid, not for only the property, but then the cost of the contractors to do the work. He lost about $30,000 off of his budget planning. Goes back to that team. Didn't have the right team. But he saw the equity, and I'm going to paint the walls. I'm going to redo the deck boards, put down some vinyl, and resell it for $40,000 more. That's really not the way that it goes, Maybe if, set the expectations a little better, they could have budgeted, but you see how easily you can lose a lot of money as an investor out there.
I think the second you start thinking that the buyer who's going to buy your flip is dumber than you are is when you run into trouble. Like
right.
Don't cheap out. They're going to know. And so don't cheap out on that. And that's how I.
You need to budget to put out a decent product
Right.
that people are going to like, and that's good.
Right.
You know, you need to be prepared to do some of those behind the wall updates as well to make it
Absolutely.
good, because it's not going to make it through inspection otherwise.
Right.
So yeah, just like you said, if you think you're going to outsmart the buyers, you're probably not.
Right.
All right. Well, hopefully you found the show valuable. If you have any questions for us, give us a call, 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Check us out online at housegeeks.com. We'll be back again in a couple weeks.